Have you ever learned to play a musical instrument? Yeah, I used to learn to play electronic piano when I was young, but I gave it up eventually because every time when I made a mistake, I would bite my finger. So I was hurting myself at that time. That's why my parents just asked me to stop. And later, when I gradually grew up, I started to learn a traditional Mongolian instrument. It's like a string instrument with a sculpture of a horse head at the top of it. So yeah, I learned to play instruments. And the next question is, what musical instruments do you enjoy listening to the most? As I've mentioned, the traditional Mongolian instrument is like my favorite. Maybe because I learned to play it and I know how to play it, and some other string instruments like violin. Because I always believe that string instruments can create a lot of possible sounds, and that is just so charming. And the next question is, do you think children should learn to play an instrument at school? I mean, learning an instrument is not something about should or shouldn't. I think it definitely shouldn't be made into a compulsory course, like something like math or English or language, which is rather required for you to survive in the society. Instead, I think it should be made into an interest class that can provide the students with a qualified course, also with a relatively lower price. So if they want, I think they can learn it, but if they don't, it's not okay to force them to learn an instrument. And the last question is, do you think music education is important to children? Yes, definitely, especially since China has gradually become one of the biggest countries in the world, and people's consumption of music really increased, and it has gradually taken up a very large proportion of their spending. So I guess music education is rather necessary for children to cultivate their taste in music from a young age, and then to develop further and to explore more of their own potentials.
Have you ever learned a musical instrument? Yep, I took a guitar course when I graduated from high school. At that time, my friend invited me to take the course with her, so I did. And it turned out to be very difficult for me. It is really hard to remember all the chords, and it's a multitasked activity. I could never learn to play the guitar while singing. What musical instrument do you enjoy listening to the most? Well, I guess that must be suona. It's a traditional Chinese musical instrument, and it is so magical that it can be both very cheering and very desperate. I guess that's the charm of it. I always get my mind blown away whenever I listen to it. Do you think children should learn a musical instrument at school? Well, I think so, as long as it doesn't take up too much time. I mean, playing a musical instrument can be very beneficial for children because it can develop their coordination ability and empathy ability. But, practicing the musical instrument can be very boring and tedious, so making it a hobby would be better. Do you think music education is important to children? Well, I cannot agree more. I think music can cultivate children's temper and also improve their ability of appreciating the beauty. And also, learning the history and the backgrounds of different kinds of music can also help children to understand different culture better.
Which musical instrument do you enjoy listening to most? Why? Well, if I had to choose one musical instrument that I enjoy listening to the most, it would probably be the guitar. I've just always really dug the sound of a nicely played guitar, The way a skilled guitarist can make it sing and weep with emotion just really gets to me. Plus, so much of the music I'm into features killer guitar playing. Whether it's blues, rocks, folk, country, whatever, the guitar is just such a versatile instrument, and it adds this extra layer of richness and soulfulness to songs, in my opinion. And when a guitarist is really wailing, man, it just gives me chills. So yeah, the almighty guitar is definitely my favorite instrument to listen to. No doubt about it. Have you ever learned to play a musical instrument? Yeah, I actually tried my hand at learning the guitar back in high school. I was really into bands like Coldplay and One Direction at the time, and I thought it'd be awesome to learn how to play like those musicians. My friend had an old acoustic guitar that he let me borrow, and I found some beginner chord charts online to practice with. For a while there, I was really digging it. I'd sit in my room for hours trying to get the chord changes down and just strumming along to songs. Got some blisters on my fingers from the strings, but I didn't care. I even learned how to play a few tunes like Wonderwall by Oasis and Knocking on Heaven's Door. Do you think children should learn to play an instrument at school? I definitely think there's value in having kids learn to play an instrument in school. For one thing, it can be really beneficial for their overall education. Learning music improves memory, abstract reasoning skills, and even math achievement. It teaches discipline, perseverance, and how to set and achieve long-term goals. Not to mention all the studies showing music helps develop creativity and self-expression. Plus, the skills they gain could easily turn into a lifelong hobby, if not a career for those musically gifted students. Playing an instrument is also just plain fun. It gives kids an enjoyable creative outlet and can help them make new friends who share the same interests. How easy would it be to learn to play an instrument without a teacher? Learning to play an instrument without a teacher would definitely be challenging, but with the right attitude and resources, it's certainly possible nowadays. Thanks to the internet, there are tons of free tutorials, videos, chord charts, and step-by-step lessons online just for about any instrument you can think of. If you pick a common instrument like guitar, piano, or drums, the amount of independent learning content is endless. You just have to be a self-motivated and disciplined student. Set aside regular practice time, start with beginner material, and don't get too frustrated when you hit hurdles. And you can always upload videos of yourself playing to get tips on improving technique. Getting live feedback from a teacher along the way is ideal, but even without one, with the wealth of resources out there, you can go far learning on your own if you put your mind to it.